cost-benefit analysis, as well as the exchange of our human strength and their brains to produce new things all the time, all put together, we will come to be a major factor in the world. So it's been a long issue. There was never a hostility.
Namaste, Suswagatam, and welcome to our Sunday edition of Words of Wisdom, Gyan Ganga, on our Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channels. We are today at episode number 248, and we will be discussing a very interesting topic, the need for a global Hindu-Jew alliance. And for the next 45 minutes, Dr. Swamy and the team will be discussing this topic. We thank our viewers across the globe in 120 countries for watching this program live on Sunday, Indian time at 8 p.m. With these words, it's over to Dr. SUBRAMANIAN SWAMY.
Thank you, Jagdish. This is a matter which, if it is fully developed, as we are expecting, it will be a major factor in a number of ways, because an alliance between India, and that is Hindu majority, of course, overwhelming majority, and the overwhelming majority of Jews in Israel, if they come together, the cost-benefit analysis, as well as the exchange of our human strength and their brains to produce new things all the time, all put together, we will come to be a major factor in the world. So it's been a long issue. There was never a hostility to the Jews in our country, in India. In fact, Jews themselves say they went all over the world when they were chased, and everywhere they have found some degree of trouble, genocide, all these things. India was the only country, they said, where we were received, looked after, given a place, and treated like they are part of the country. So that is a tribute which they gave. And the Jews who came to India, many of them over the years, they began participating in our activities. For example, General Jacob, he became a general, but for him, Bangladesh would never have been liberated. Why? Because as our troops, as ordered by Manik Shah, reached near Dhaka, the Soviets gave a fatwa to Indira Gandhi that no, now you can't go any further. And that would have meant that Pakistan would have been continuing to remain, and a new country called Bangladesh would not have come into being. But they were in charge in that place, in Dhaka, holding the army, something like 30,000 people behind him, was General Jacob, who disregarded the advice of Manik Shah and went in straight into Dhaka and took as a prisoner the general of the Pakistanis, and declared that Bangladesh has come into being and it is no more anything to do with Pakistan. Of course, subsequently, Indira Gandhi was so angry because Indira Gandhi was then rebuked by the Russians, saying that, why you betrayed us, so on and so forth. So she then held a court-martial for him. And surprisingly, General Jacob, who should have been decorated, had a court-martial. But in the court-martial, the Manik Shah said to him in his examination that I sent you a message that don't move any further, and you, despite that message, you went ahead. That is the violation you have done. So he said, you sent it by teleprinter, and there was no electricity, so I never received it. And on that, he was freed. And then BJP came to power, and we gave him Padma Bhushan, and we decorated him as a governor and so on. So I'm saying here is a man who was able to do it in this way. That is the Jewish commitment that I have seen everywhere. I've had Jewish teachers at Harvard, and when they took you as a student, they almost treated you like a father. They would spend hours explaining and so on. And I had two of the most famous economists, Paul Samuelson and Simon Kuznets. Simon Kuznets was the father of the GDP, and he was known for how to make the Indian economy through numbers. And of course, Paul Samuelson was mathematical, and he took the economics to the height where it's now considered as a science, and there's a Nobel Prize for it also. So we are dealing with the Jewish people who have a tremendous capacity to transform any situations because of their knowledge and their commitments. When they got Israel, it was just a sand area, but they worked on drip irrigation. Then they did desalination of seawater, and then they made cows, which became so big that they would produce about 10 times what Indian cows produce. So all this thing has been demonstrated. But the Israelis were never left in peace. They all the time, although it was a United Nations decision to carve out a place called Israel, or re-carve out, because it was original Israel centuries ago. And then on that basis, they worked, and they used their brains, and they brought their innovations. And today Israel is a developed country. And alone, it can take care of so many of these Arab countries, all getting bombarded. They are not able to stand up. They can do horrible things like what they did on 7th of October in Jerusalem in a clandestine way. But now the Hamas is paying a huge price for that. There may be no Hamas very soon. And then it is possible that negotiated settlements can take place. So today, why we are bringing is that there is now a growing opinion in India, started with Swami Dayanand Saraswati in 2008, and when he had also invited me, the the head priest of Israel, of the Jews. He and his a large number of his entourage came to Delhi, and then we had a discussion. The Israelis, the Jews, Jews delegation raised this question that you have multiple gods, and we have only one God. And Dayanand Saraswati satisfied them by saying, yes, we have all these, but these are manifestation of one God, Ishwar, and we also have only one. But we, in order to make the people understand, we have got its manifestations in different way to attract people to religion. And they accepted that. And then they said, yes, Jews and Hindus can work together. We are an ancient civilization. Our religion goes very far behind and back, and our concepts are now the same. So that's how the process started. But after that, we got the thing didn't progress. We tried to teach it as an Israeli thing. Of course, India's diplomatic relations was done by Narasimha Rao, and Narasimha Rao had the courage to do it, even though it was against Congress party policy. But whatever it is, it happened, and but all through from 1948 to to the later period of 1994, when it was formally was recognized, the Israelis continued to help India in the war effort against Pakistan and China, and they provided weapons. They even got hold of Russian tanks, which were given to Romania and the Eastern countries, East Europe countries, and redid it and gave it to us. And it looked as if the Russians had given us this thing, but it was actually the Israelis. So on education, on science, on medicine, take any field, the Jewish people are in the forefront, just like our old days when our Hindus were in the forefront of innovation and discovery and so on. So the two of them coming, we have one advantage, we have 1.4 billion people. They are probably 15 million, I think. And therefore, but on the other hand, the amount of innovations they do is maybe 100 times what we do. So we have pluses and minuses, and their plus we can use to remove our minus. And so these two countries must come together. We have embassies now, but embassy is not enough. We need one-to-one interaction with people. There should be possibility of the government making delegations of ordinary people go, farmers to go and see what it's like, etc. And a very close relationship. And we should consider the possibility that we will help each other militarily, because the Israelis have tremendous amount of technology, which we don't have, and we can get that. And Israelis also, if they are in dire trouble, then our soldiers can also play a role to protect the country from being taken over by foreigners. So we have this developing now. I'd like to say that after Dayanand Saraswati, who held 3 meetings. I attended one of them, and ultimately we came to the conclusion that our Abraham, the Jews, Abraham, and our God can be compared. Brahma was considered as almost similar, and we overcame this idea that we are a country with large number of gods. Yes, large number of gods, but all ultimately is the Ishwar. Ishwar is only one God, and these are all various manifestations for people. Now, ideologically, it has been said, brains-wise, we know each other, and so Jagdish Shetty came up with an idea that we should now form an association of Hindus and Jews. We can't say Indians because there are a large number of Indians large number of non-Hindu Indians who would find it very difficult at this stage to come as part of this thing. So therefore, the idea that Jagdish Shetty said is, let's start with this. And we went to Dallas, where the Jews also came, and we had an excellent host, an Indian who has made a lot of money, but is always concerned about India's greatness. And so in his house, we stayed, and in this house, we held this conference. And we now can say that the ball has started rolling. And very soon, maybe in another 6 months, we will have a international or binational conference in which prominent Jews will come from Israel and other parts. By the way, the Jews are all over the world. In fact, the people we met in the United States were not from Israel. They were Jews, but they were born and brought up in the United States. So they are in many, many, many countries, but they all unite when it becomes the future of Israel. And therefore, I think we, in a multi-dimensional way, we can now create a situation where Hindus and Jews who easily can come together, because we don't believe in forcible conversions like the Christians and the Muslims believe and execute it, sometimes even using violence. But the idea is that if you are persuaded, then you can take that religion, and that is the same way. It's the same way with the Hindus. It's the same way with the Jews, and so we in fact fit in a number of ways. And of course, Indians are known to be, and Hindus in particular, are known to be people who have a long history of intellectual activity, and so is the Jews, and so we are fit to be able to be partners in a number of dimensions in the world. And for this, we will benefit by being with them, and they will also benefit from a large country like India being with them in hours of difficulty. Over to you, Jagdish.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for that insight. In fact, learning by both the Jews and the Hindus, Indians' experiences over the centuries, I think this force or this coming together of a global Hindu-Jews alliance, it will be a big force, and also teaching or experiencing from one another, because as Jews have spread all over the world, and it is only after 1948 that some of the Jews started migrating back to Israel. That why I'm saying this is like that Hindus also, although they are concentrated in India, but they have been spread all over the world in many countries. Now you see that the Hindus are there and they face various type of challenges. So this coming together of this new alliance will be mutually beneficial to one another, and we are moving in the direction. Already in India, we have what is known as the Indo-Israel Friendship Association. That's between only the two countries. But what we are aiming at is a global new alliance of the Jews and the Hindus. Sorry. And we hope in the coming months and years, we will be able to give this some shape and some force also. There are a lot of Hindus who have expressed their desire for such an organization. And when we had an interaction with the Jews in India and those Jews who are abroad, especially America. As Dr. Swamy said, there are nearly perhaps 10 million Jews in Israel, and perhaps 7 million or so Jews in the United States, and they're spread also all over the world. So this force of coming together will especially give us an advantage of, especially now that terrorism is being rearing its heads everywhere, how the Jews have successfully fought against the terrorists and surrounded by all hostile neighbors. We could learn from their experience and support how we can deal with the subject, because we have unfinished task of POK. We have to settle properly things with Pakistan. We have to get back the land from China. So in this thing, I think this Global Jewish Alliance will be a big help, not at government to government level, that keeps on going on, but especially collaboration with the people to people level. So this will be something which will be a reality very soon. In numerous cities of India, already requests we have got of holding some meetings and conferences, and the same thing in Canada, USA, and Britain, and we will take it forward. With this opening remarks made by Dr. Swamy and something added by me, we will further have discussion. Our panel members will give their inputs and take it forward. I would require Arvind Chaturvedi also to please speak in Hindi a little bit, because there is some people in India who are very eager on it. I know the international crowd watching this show will prefer English, but perhaps Arvind can speak in English and give our viewers some idea of what's going on. And Ramesh and Swaminathan and Tejas will also join. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagdish. It's such an important topic. Just before the program started, in fact, we were discussing that how timely this move is, and your visit with Dr. Swamy to US and having a meeting with the Jews. यहूदियों के साथ मीटिंग, एक सभा करके ये विचार जो डॉक्टर स्वामी ने प्रतिपादित किया है, मेरे ख्याल से ये समय की मांग है। और जैसा कि अभी डॉक्टर स्वामी ने भी बताया कि हो सकता है कि भारत के कुछ नागरिक जो गैर हिंदू नागरिक हैं इस विचार का समर्थन अभी नहीं करें, क्योंकि अभी हाल में जो इजराइल और फिलिस्तीनी का जो संघर्ष चल रहा है या हमास के साथ जो संघर्ष चल रहा है, उसमें एक बड़ा वर्ग है हिंदुस्तानियों का जो शायद इजराइल की तरफ नहीं है। लेकिन जो तरक्की ज्ञान के क्षेत्र में, मैं रिपीट कर रहा हूं, ज्ञान के क्षेत्र में इंटेलेक्चुअल लेवल पे इजराइल ने दिखाई है दुनिया को, और सामरिक महत्व से मिलिट्री इंपॉर्टेंस, आई थिंक ये पूरे देश के लिए हमारे लिए लाभकारी होगा। और भले ही सरकार से सरकार का संबंध जो है, जैसे जगदीश ने बताया कि वो चलता रहेगा, लेकिन यदि ये संबंध बना और ये संबंध मजबूत हुआ तो इन संबंधों के जरिए सरकार पर भी एक प्रभाव पड़ेगा, एक दबाव बनेगा, और सरकार इजराइल के साथ संबंध को और प्रगाढ़ करेगी और आगे बढ़ाएगी। ये बहुत जरूरी है। और मैं सुझाव देता हूं कि चूंकि ये कल्चरल लेवल पे, सांस्कृतिक स्तर पर पहले प्रारंभ हो सकता है, ज्ञान के लेवल पे शुरू हो सकता है, तो हम महाविद्यालय, कॉलेजेस में और यूनिवर्सिटीज में इस तरह के सम्मेलन करें जहां पर इजराइल के जो इंटेलेक्चुअल क्लास है, जो प्रोफेसर्स और जो ज्ञानी व्यक्ति हैं, उनको हम बुलाएं, और भारत के विश्वविद्यालयों में इस प्रकार का हम एक सेमिनार और संगोष्ठी करें। इन संगोष्ठियों के माध्यम से एक जनता में प्रचार होगा, दूसरा जो लोग इजराइल के बारे में कम जानते हैं उनको भी जानने का मौका मिलेगा, यहूदियों के बारे में जो लोग कम जानते हैं उनको जानने का मौका मिलेगा, और जो लोग जानते हैं उनको हमें जोड़ने में सहायता होगी। तो हम इंटेलेक्चुअल लेवल पे पहले प्रारंभ करें। Let us start at the university level and start some seminars in leading universities where we can invite the intellectuals and professors from Israel, Jewish professors, and not only Israel, even as you said, outside Israel, Jews, यहूदियों की पॉपुलेशन पूरे विश्व में है। जहां जहां महत्वपूर्ण पदों पे यहूदी हैं और भारत में जो लोग मानने वाले हैं, उनको हम इकट्ठा करेंगे तो एक ज्ञान का वातावरण तैयार होगा, एक इंटेलेक्चुअल एनवायरनमेंट तैयार होगा, और वो बाद में भारत सरकार पे दबाव बनाएगा ताकि हमारे संबंध और मजबूत हों। ये बहुत अच्छी पहल है। डॉक्टर स्वामी और जगदीश शेट्टी इसके लिए बधाई के पात्र हैं।
Ramesh, your comments. Ramesh also attended the meeting in Dallas, so and he had got an insight and he had expressed his views. So I think Ramesh also will give us his take on the matter and the overall subject.
Okay, thank you, Jagdishji. Thank you, Dr. Swami. Yes, as Dr. Swami had indicated, we had a meeting in Dallas, in Texas. Basically, I think the objective was to create an alliance where a lot of in a while, I think Swaminathan will give us an idea as to similarities in what we do in terms of how the practices and all. But we wanted to keep this thing at a higher level, saying that, okay, what do the Jews do better than us? And Dr. Swami said, be it technology. But another thing that I found that they have done really well in the US is that the Jewish community has created a very strong set of organizations that protect their rights. For example, if you imagine in the US, there are about 10 million Jews, or plus or minus, give or take a few. But they have come to a point that not even a single, so far in history, no president has ever said that they're going to work against Israel. The first thing that they do is we will support Israel. See, that is very important. So the Hindus are about 2.5 million, give or take a few. I think the Hindus can learn a lot and become a serious lobbying force in the US. But the reason why, because my context is within the US, because it makes a lot of sense. Because if we're able to create such a force and create such a lobbying power in the US, and we can have a lot of influence, be it the UN, because time and again the US government says, oh, there is, the religious freedom is getting challenged in India and all that nonsense that the government puts out. We should challenge all of that. There is absolutely, India is by far the most truly secular country by design. Dr. Swami has explained that to in many episodes before. Whenever we talk about Hinduism in general or Sanatana Dharma in general, inherently Sanatana Dharma is secular. But the foreign nations, the Western nations, calling us, saying that there is no religious tolerance and all this nonsense has to be debunked, fought. But what do? We just issue statements sitting in Delhi. But that's not how it works. In the US, you defame the Jewish religion or their practices, the first thing they do is they throw a lawsuit at you. So that concept of that, basically that fear, or not even a fear, that respect essentially needs to be brought out. I think this is something that we can learn from the Jewish community in America. How do they do this? Because they have a bunch of organizations. They have the Anti-Defamation League, so you can't really go and defame the way Jewish. In spite of whatever is happening in Gaza, the pros and cons, the support is strong among the political class. Obviously, among the public, there will be left in both sides. They'll jump around and do whatever on, but they have zero influence on the policy of the government. The Indian government can also learn a lot of these things instead of sitting on the fence constantly when it comes to the Israel-Palestine issue. India has to take a definitive stand. So one day it's two-state solution. One day they have the right what to do. You can't just wake up every day and say something different, and it doesn't instill confidence in either of the community. So, there are two ways to do this. We can constantly complain that the government is not being effective. The other way that Dr. Swami thought about this and where we are today is to form an alliance and start creating at a grassroots level. If a bunch of people, if the public in general, the Hindus and Jews get together, you can create an influence, a force that the government can stand up and say, oh, you know what, there is this thing, we need to pay attention to this. So it's very crucial that this kind of an alliance is formed. And it's, again, don't think it's something that we're going to do today. Tomorrow, everything is going to be hunky-dory and things like that. This is a long-term plan, because everybody wants to say, okay, you formed the alliance today, tomorrow what happened? This is not a Maggi noodles. We're not going to cook Maggi noodles here. I mean, this is a long-term thing. We have to plan this properly, get this thing done. I'm looking at Dr. Swami's generation, my generation, and generations to come, build this, the alliance and sustain, because there are a lot of similarities, be it cultural, religious practices, even in thoughts where we are. And by far, India was the only country when the Jews were persecuted during the World War II. India was one of the very few countries in the East that gave asylum to the Jewish people, and they formed a huge. You have to that this is very significant. We have not learned from our history properly. We need to understand there are a lot of similarities. Yes, we can form bridges in multiple areas. We are not saying, okay, how do we operate? But conceptually, that's exactly what Dr. Swamy has been saying in our meetings. Conceptually, at a very high ideological level, we need to understand that there are a lot of common things with that. Let us create and join together and create a force. So that is the basis on which this meeting was held. There are a lot of things to come. We welcome feedback, but don't get into the grassroots, lower level and say, can we do this? Can this chapter here? And don't get into the, weed. As we say, don't miss the forest for the trees. We would love to get some feedback, but we wanted to explain to the people who listen to this program that conceptually we want to come together. And there are a lot of things that we can learn how the Jewish population has organized. It's the most important thing, how they organized amongst themselves, bring about a unity which severely lacks among the Hindus. I can tell you, living in this country for 25 years, there is no unity amongst the Hindus here. One day, even within communities, we fight against who's superior, who's inferior, and all that crap. Sorry about the language, but again, at the end of the day, we need to put those things aside. You might want to fight in another day, but when it comes to this concept, a common cause, I'm not saying they're great even among the Jewish community. They also have their own differences. But when it comes to the common cause, they get together. They forget their differences and they get together. I don't want to get into the other religions, but I think I want to stick to the topic that there needs to be an alliance between the Hindus and Jews. Thank you, Jagdish.
I would request Swaminathan to give his insights, and he has done some comparison between our two religions to give us an insight into this topic.
Thank you, Jagdish ji and Dr. Swamy, for giving me this opportunity. I'll just touch base on the similarities as to what brings Hindus and Jews close. We'll start with the basic fundamental text of Jews is known as Torah. It's said in Mount Sinai for Moses. It's kind of oral Torah they started with, similar to that of Hindus have Vedas. It's not written. Now it's written. But initially they started with the Torah, which is an oral text. So they follow that. That's one of the anonymous thing which is said by God, which is what we call it as a Devvani. That's the starting point for Hindus and Jews to bring together, and these are all termed as a living bodies. Coming to their customs, like similar to that of Hindus, Jews also have their customs of welcoming their male child by having Brit Sedwa and something, and female child is Zed something. So they also have a customs of welcoming the child into the family customs and observing an 8-day thing, which also a Hindu do. These are all culturally similar things which we do have it. And not to forget, VHS symbol also represents a kind of Star of David, which Judaism and Hindus do it. And similar to common, as Dr. Swamy, Jagdish and Ramesh said, belief in the name of the God or the 13 commandments or the religious pluralism, these are all common things between Hindus and Jews together. We also accept that all paths leads to God. They also accept that. Another commonality is Jews also have a concept of priesthood, similar to that of Hindus, where you go to temples, you have a priest and things like it to do it. This is one of the other common factors. And coming to most important thing is food. Jews have a prescription known as a kashrut, which is used to prepare a food in a clean way, and they have a kosher meals. If you go to any of the restaurants in New York, you can find out a kosher meals. Similar to that, we also have a food customs. These are all some of the common points which brings Hindus and Jews together at the fundamental level, wherein like you see this. Apart from that, if you see a modernity thing, we are also surrounded by hostile neighbors, mostly the rest of Jews. So the neighborhood was, it's something like we can't choose our neighbors. Therefore, we have to live with that and something like that. And importantly, both of them are coming from a British influence. Immediately before the independence, we were governed by British, similar to that of Jews as well. That's one of the common factors. And it was a bloody partition on both sides. We lost to Pakistan and things like it. You also had surrounded by Syria, Lebanon, and was going all the time. So another thing which brings us together is the diaspora network, just what Ramesh mentioned. They have a very strong diaspora network, be it Democrats or Republicans. Jews always have a say or a reach or a communication open to the US government authorities, which, as he said, we need to cultivate and bring that in together. These are some of the common points which I would like to share with you. And in general, as Dr. Swamy started, we would like to take advantage of the drip irrigation or any of the technologies, except for Pegasus. That's all we want to say.
But maybe they will give us the Pegasus secret, and then we can prosecute Mr. Modi for that.
Maybe, sir. Yeah. So these are the fundamental uniting factors, as I said, brings Hindus and Jews together at various levels, right from a birth to death. They also have a ceremony happening for all the 13 days, things like it. So fundamentally, we are interlinked.
Yeah. Okay. Jagdish, the host with whom we stayed and who he is, what his background, could you just briefly mention it?
Yeah, the person who took the initiative from Dallas was Dr. Siddharth Gaur. He is popularly known as Dr. Sid Gaur, SID, Sid Gaur. And there were other friends, Hasmukh Patel, and there was our friend from Canada, Lajpat Rai, and Lajpat Parasar, and others. So Dr. Gaur took the initiative to have this get together, and we have started. A lot of formalities have to be completed. There were a lot of views from some Jewish friends also who participated. Some people gave their insight on the Jewish community, how things in America is, how things are there in the other part, that is in Israel, because as you know, it is not only Jews are there in Israel, but Jews are there in large number in, as I mentioned earlier, in Europe, greatly in the United States, some in Canada, and some in Britain. So we are going to be a global organization. So our friends in Dallas helped us to facilitate this meeting, and we look forward and thank them and look forward to take it. There are other intellectuals, Indians in America as well as in Britain as well as in India, who are either authors, writers, and we are starting a dialogue with them so that we make all these energies together. Now, if you see, there are a lot of individual or city-based organizations across the globe, or especially in some parts of America, and they express solidarity if anything happens to the Jews. But we want all these to come together under a larger umbrella, so our energies are focused and we get the maximum benefit for both the communities in India as well as in Israel, as in USA. There are a lot of friends in Israel also who have helped us come together, and formally, informally. So we have to be thankful to them also, and we will be taking this initiative forward.
Jagdish, I'd like to add a few more points. So again, guys, somebody said, what can we do to participate? As we said, it's in a very early stage. So once we have a formal structure in place, we will definitely reach out. We're going to have one more program. Sorry, excuse me. Explain about what we can do together, and and we are looking at multiple avenues, right from different age groups, because we feel that there are a lot of activism in especially as far as US is concerned in college campuses. So we have in our group we had a bunch of youngsters. They came up with some brilliant suggestions and ideas. So we're going to formulate something that is across age groups. It's just not some old people sitting at the top and discussing things. We want to involve multiple generations in this, have a tie-up, make sure that they build a strong bond. And that's why we call this as an alliance rather than anything else, because we need, and there could be multiple components. There could be a think tank, there could be cultural exchange groups. We need to bring this together. It needs to be a long-term plan. You can't say there's only one way to do this. There could be multiple ways to get this organization growing. At the end of the day, between the two communities, they should have a sense of trust and saying that, yes, this is a group, or Hindus are some people that we can trust in our challenges. Because in the same way, we should also give them a confidence, and they will help us. Dr. Swamy made one very important mention during our meeting. He says the Jewish people have this tendency. They trust their friends, and they know who their enemies are. So they always remember who helped them, and they always remember who their enemies are. So I think that is what is very important. We have to remember this, and India has always stood by any oppressed people, be it even when the Parsis were persecuted, India gave them a place where they could come in, live, and we had a lot of people. India has this tendency built into them, right? That's why we call ourselves Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. It's not some fancy statement politicians make, but there is an inherently in our culture, in Sanatana Dharma, that this Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam ingrained, whether you like it or not, we have this within ourselves. That's why we tolerate a lot of those things. That's why we tolerate a lot of those things that happen within India. We don't care who you are, what you do, whatever you are. But in essence, we are all only one thing. We believe in one simple thing. And as Dr. Swamy also mentioned that, when Dayanand Saraswati ji, the incident, he also mentioned something like, basically we believe in this concept called Ekam Sat, Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. It's a very similar concept they also have. And I think a lot of these discussions were appreciated. So somebody just, we should avoid ourselves getting distracted by saying that, okay, I'm a different Hindu than you are. Those things are at a granular level, keep fighting because nobody can stop them. But an ideological level, we should all come together. We can keep our differences. I don't think because two people agree on everything, one of us is redundant. As Moraji Desai said to Dr. Swamy. So we can disagree. Let us continue to agree, disagree, and whatnot. But at an ideological level, we should come together.
Tejas Navalgol.
Do you have anything? Yeah, Tejas.
Yeah, so currently what I feel is we are at a moment in history where very strong and strategic alliances are needed between the Hindu-Jewish, actually, because both of them are very ancient civilizations, which now we heard they share common values, experiences. And if you check the history, right, both Hindus and Jews have faced operation prosecution, but both of them, if you see, have survived because of strong community ties or innovations, and still protected their own culture. So seeing these things, if you take for an example the Battle of Haifa, there was a contribution of Indian soldiers as well. Both, so Indian and Israeli have a history. In 1918, September 23rd, our regiments like Jodhpur Lancers, Mysore Lancers, Hyderabad Lancers, they actually helped the Israel. In Israel, if you see, the Haifa Day is celebrated especially to honor the Indian soldiers. Because of that, Israel was able to liberate Haifa, actually capture Haifa, I would say. So around 900 Indian soldiers almost died for this Haifa war. So one of them, Dalpat Singh, was also recognized as the hero of Haifa. So if you see, we must actually come together, I feel, and this initiative will really help, because that will actually build more secure and prosperous future. Seeing the strong connection between these two nations is what I would like to share.
Very good.
Arvind, would you like to add anything on this, and Ramesh ji, before we?
Yeah, as I said, it may not be a government to government, but it may be at one organization to another. And when Ramesh was saying that Jews are spread all over the world, so are Hindus, and these Hindus are really appreciate what Israel has done to contest the terrorism, especially Hamas and other similar organizations, India needs this kind of help and technology and expertise. Now, naturally, government of India will also try with government of Israel. But as I said earlier, I will repeat that this kind of organization will force and put pressure on government to have a better collaboration. And when I said start with universities, maybe there's a lot of collaborative research which is possible between the two intellectual groups from Jews and Hindus. And I think that should be a point of beginning. And in terms of technology, Dr. Swamy mentioned drip irrigation. I mean, Israel is the pioneer of drip irrigation. India, which always has a shortage of water and relies on the rainwater for a long time for our farmers, drip irrigation is one of the pioneering effort which if India adopts, then certainly the irrigation situation will be better and productivity will be higher. And not only that, even Dr. Swamy had suggested when there was a Kaveri dispute, desalination of water. That technology again comes from Israel. So, in terms of technology, in terms of advancement in science, Israel is much ahead of India. Even in human development, if we look at this, Israel is 18th in the world according to Human Development Index, HDI. We are beyond 100. So we have a lot of things to learn from Israel. And in Israel, in terms of per capita income, Israel is much ahead of us. And Jews in America are one of the largest earning society, and so are Hindus. So I mean, there are a lot of they just said a lot of similarities between Hindus and the Jews. Yes, at the global level, and I think this organization will pave the way for a greater unity and greater cooperation between two countries, two great cultures, two great civilizations like Hindus and Jews, India and Israel.
Thank you, Arvind. Dr. Swamy, your last few words on this topic, and then Arvind will wind up.
Well, when I visited Israel in 1994, at that time I was holding a minister's rank position in Nassim Rao's government. Nassim Rao wanted me to go. I was surprised to see on the beaches of Haifa and other places, the people were practicing yoga. And I later found out that yoga is a very big craze in Israel. So it's not that we will be borrowing from them, but they also have plenty of things to borrow from us, and therefore this approach of mutual helping each other is important. Now, of course, I would say that militarily they are smarter than almost everybody else, and we need their support. Previously, they have supported us, but clandestinely. In 1971 Bangladesh war, they supported us. Fight against China, they supported us. So they're, and I know this firsthand, so to speak. So, but that time it couldn't be mentioned. These are the government's officers, Indira Gandhi, etc., which are opposing any diplomatic relations with Israel. But at the same time, at the time of war, they relied on the Israelis to fill in certain gaps. So therefore, now let's do it all openly and say that in our national interest and in our cultural interest, we Jews and Hindus should get together. And of course, the Israelis are primed to it, and we look forward to its further development.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. Also, a lot of Jews are coming as tourists to India, whether they are from Israel or other parts of the world, and
Yes.
numerous places, especially I know in Himachal Pradesh, numerous Hindu religious places also, we'll find a lot of Jew tourists going there. In fact, many places they write, the shopkeepers in India, Himachal and other parts, all the Uttar Pradesh and other parts, they write in Hebrew language.
Yeah.
some boards and all that, whether it is rice plate is ready or something like that, or foods are available, they would write Hebrew. Even in Goa, you will find that thing. So they come silently. They come, they know that Hindustan is an ancient civilization and there's a lot to learn and see in India. So they come and go to all these places. In Himachal, I have noticed, Uttarakhand, I have noticed, Uttar Pradesh is there, and various other states where we have historical, religious, as well as historical monument. The Jews come silently, participate, and then go away. So it's actually a cultural exchange which is going on silently over the ages. And it was not the Jews who were persecuted elsewhere. And in India, it is not only World War II. They have come centuries ago and been silently living, for example, in Maharashtra, around Mumbai, and in Kerala, Cochin. You'll find still beautiful synagogues in Mumbai as well as in Cochin. And lot of people who are all over the world, the Jews, they come to see these places, how India helped the Jews settle down here, live peacefully. Many of them have ways of dressing. Everything is likely like Indians. I know so many Maharashtrians who are Jews and have Indian surnames, but they are part of their tradition they keep, but they also keep the tradition of the Hindu lifestyle here. So it has been open over the centuries in Thana, Alibag, Konkan. You'll find a lot of these families. Okay, it's over to Arvind for wrapping up the show.
I think, as we said in the beginning, and the introduction given by Dr. Swamy and the details given by Jagdish Shetty for the meeting shared by Ramesh, I think this is about time. This type of organization should be given all encouragement and all support, wherever possible. There may be very small number of Jews in India, or there may be very small number of Hindus in Israel. But since both these communities are spread all over the world, and among the intellectuals, the share of these two communities may be around 30 to 40%, which is very important. And that's why I said start with the seat of knowledge. And seat of knowledge are universities and colleges. And this organization should start taking shape in the seat of knowledge, such as universities and colleges. And Ramesh said about the Vasudev Kutam, Ayam Nijah Paroveti Ganana Laguchet Sham Udar Charitanam to Vasudeva Kutambakam. That is the basis of Sanatan Dharma, as Ramesh mentioned. And I think it is shared equally and in right spirit by the Jews also. And this organization, or this kind of concept of this organization, should be given all encouragement and support. We welcome the initiative taken by Dr. Swamy, Jagdish Shetty, and others in this in this direction, and even the Jews who are supporting, not only Jews from Israel, but even Jews from US. Thank you very much, Dr. Swamy, for taking this initiative. And I think this idea will go a long way in establishing a cultural relationship between India and Israel. And as you rightly said, we need them militarily also. The military technology, and of course, if we go into the Indo-Israel trade, it has been increasing by the maybe compound annual growth rate of maybe 11-12%. But I think these kind of organizations will further help the Indo-Israel trade as well. Thank you very much. Thanks Jagdish Shetty for giving this all the details. Ramesh and Tejas Navalgul and Swaminathan. Thanks the technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Gadgi Rakesh, Ishwar Iyer, Ajesh Mehta, Ajesh Nair, Vishal Mehta, and Gurdas Shetty. We will be back with a similar program on a new topic, and maybe this particular topic will again be, once the organization gets a shape, or once this idea gets going, then we'll have one more program on this topic later. Next Sunday, we'll be meeting you again with Dr. SUBRAMANIAN SWAMY with a new topic, and under the VHS team. Thanks all the viewers for joining us. Last week we could not have the program because Dr. Swamy and Jagdish were traveling, and next week again we'll be meeting with a new topic. Till then, namaskar, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, Jai Shri Ram, and Toda for our Jewish friends. Toda means thank you.